All right, welcome everyone. Nice to see some familiar names here and to see people who we don't know as well. So
New
welcome.
names.
So we might give people a few more minutes to join us. We'll get started in a second. I'll share my slides to start and just make sure that's all working. Okay.
There will be an interactive part of the workshop, so if you guys want to test your mics to see that you can talk or contribute if you want, feel free to say hello.
Okay. Lauren, can you see my slides?
I can.
Great. All right, what do you think, Lauren? Should we get started?
Sure, I'd say go for it.
All right. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Great to have you here for our Inclusive Design Experience workshop. My name is Andrea Hemrick. I am one of the co-founders of Up for the Challenge. I'm also an adjunct assistant professor at McMaster University and Queen's University, and I teach human-centered design at McMaster in the engineering graduate program. As part of my teaching, I have the opportunity to share a lot of the ideas that we'll be talking about today. Ideas around connecting engineering and technology to the social impact that we would like to create in the world. And I also often draw on my own professional experience in biomedical engineering, global health initiatives, to show students what inclusive design can look like. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that the session is being recorded, and I'm going to hand it over to Lauren to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Folk. I'm also one of the co-founders of Up for the Challenge, and I work as a transportation engineer. And similar to Andrea, very passionate about inspiring other people to see the power that STEM has to create positive social change. And I know when I got into engineering, it was what really inspired me to continue doing it was some of the work I got to do related to long-term care home evacuations, as well as wildfire evacuation planning, kind of seeing where the engineering field could really help people. So yeah, we're excited for this workshop today.
All right. And so we wanted to start with a land acknowledgement, found it that's really important, especially in engineering, to be aware of the ways that the development of technologies has contributed to colonial mindsets that view land as a raw material, free to be taken and exploited. And up for the challenge, we want to contribute to the transformation of our relationships with the land, with one another, through learning about different ways of knowing and being. And so I'm just going to start with a land acknowledgement. Sorry, as I'm shifting things around here. Just a moment. I realize I've got all the wrong settings here. Okay. So I just wanted to take a moment to pay our respects to, sorry. The Anishinaabe people who were the traditional guardians of the unceded territory we know as Ottawa, and the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, whose traditional territory known as Toronto are the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. So Up for the Challenge is primarily based in Toronto and Ottawa. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. and we pay our respects to all Indigenous people in these regions and from all nations across North America. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. And as settlers, Lauren and I are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and play in this territory. Okay.
Andrea, before you dive into this slide, do you want to give a brief overview of kind of the format of what the hour is going to look like, what people can expect?
Sure, yeah. So we're going to share a little bit about Up for the Challenge, what our organization is all about, what our mission is, and how we do our work together before actually diving in and giving you a chance to experience what that's like on a small scale using a design exercise. So Lauren's going to take you through that. And yeah, so you'll get a chance to feel to get a feel for what we do in our workshops and wrap it up from there to yeah, and I think there might be a small chance for questions and feedback.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions while we're going through, feel free to send a message in the chat, whether it's a question about what we're talking about, or if you're having technical issues as well, please let us know in the chat. And then during the interactive workshop portion, we'll be asking you guys to kind of work with us and contribute. So we'll be sharing a link to some slides you guys can help edit, as well as encourage you guys at that point to turn on your mics and also contribute in the chat. So we hope you guys enjoy.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so yeah, like I said, we wanted to share a little bit about Up for the Challenge, how we came to be, and take you back to an initiative that was started by the Women in Science and Engineering group in Ottawa in about 2015, where we came together to actually brainstorm creative strategies to improve the representation of women and other equity-deserving groups in science and engineering. So we recognize that there are already a lot of amazing programs out there that really address the needs around role models and mentorship in engineering. So we instead considered a different approach in which we really reflected on why we had entered these fields in the first place. And that was an understanding that we could create positive impact in the world using science and engineering as tools to support the change we wanted to see. And so recognizing that many women like ourselves tend to choose areas of study that contribute to the social good. We see in engineering, for example, smaller gender disparities in disciplines like biomedical engineering, environmental engineering, and also in science fields where that are associated with caregiving professions like medicine. We also notice that, and we're aware that people who don't know very much about engineering often don't make those same connections. And so that sentiment is expressed here on the slide by Dr. Taisir Abdel-Nasser from a Globe and Mail article in 2010. And she said, "We lost the message that engineering can improve people's lives." And so really it was based on that idea and our own experiences that we anticipated that connecting science, technology, engineering, and math to opportunities for social impact would motivate more diverse individuals to pursue these fields. And so that's really the foundation of Up for the Challenge. Okay. We wanted to focus on youth in grades 7 to 10 because that's the age range during which we typically start to lose equity-deserving youth in these fields. And again, we have a lot of fantastic programs out there for elementary school students that are really effective at making sciences and math fun and accessible to kids in those age ranges. But by middle school, a lot of underrepresented students tend to self-select themselves out of these subjects. And so that's where we wanted to motivate kids and youth in this age range to pursue the sciences, to see the value in continuing into programs like engineering beyond secondary school. And so our mission, therefore, is to inspire youth to use STEM for social impact. Okay, so how do we do this? We created our first program in collaboration with Parkdale Food Center in Ottawa in 2017, and we use design thinking, or a human-centered design approach, to associate STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, with the potential to create positive change in the community. Design thinking is described here as a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So it's very much an interdisciplinary process that integrates technology in a way that supports what people need or want. I'm just going to make sure everybody's got their mics off, because I think there's some background noise. Or is it just me? That's the way to go. Can you hear that too, Lauren?
Yes, we all can hear it, and I think you should ask everyone once again.
Okay.
I think Emmanuel is the one listing with his mic on.
So if everybody can just turn their mics off, that's better. Thank you. Okay. All right. So this slide shows the design thinking process as described by the Stanford D School, where we go through these 5 phases, starting with empathizing with the people that we're designing for, designing with, before we define the design challenge. And we define the design challenge based on our understanding from their perspective. So reframing the challenge based on their point of view. At that point, we go through an ideation process, coming up with lots of ideas, prototyping those ideas, testing out those ideas. It's not a linear process. It's not as neat and pretty as it looks on the slide. It's an iterative process. It can get very messy, but that also allows for our workshop participants to bring in their unique perspectives and knowledge into this creative process. And so I also just wanted to point out that often in engineering, we overlook the empathy part in our design process. Engineers can sometimes define a problem based on incorrect assumptions that then lead to poor outcomes and solutions that actually don't benefit anybody. And so empathy is really a key part of our workshops that allows our participants to reframe the design challenge in a way that's meaningful to them and helps engage everyone, especially people who might not consider themselves to be good at math or science. And so in collaborating with the Parkdale Food Center in Ottawa, as part of our pilot program back in 2017, we were able to connect with a meaningful real-world challenge focused on food security in the community. And with the help of facilitators from the Food Center, our 7 middle school participants had an opportunity to interview their neighbors who use the center for various reasons. The students identified a number of different issues that they felt should be addressed, including not only the quality and quantity of food available to those in need, but also our society's perception of poverty. They noticed that despite the caring home provided by the Parkdale Food Center, outside of this environment, neighbors felt invisible. And so they created a website to share with a broader community their neighbors' stories about what the Parkdale Food Center meant to them, and to promote this Lego design of the ideal food center that you see on the left side of the slide there. And so our success in engaging young people in this process is really related to this idea of an asset-based approach to diversity that encourages students to leverage their distinct knowledge and experiences and values in their work. And this not only motivates student engagement, but also fosters inclusivity. So at this point in the workshop, we are going to give you some ideas of how we actually take our participants through this. We're going to describe in a little bit more detail what we do in a half-day workshop, but again, condensed in a very short period for this evening. And we're going to get you participating in the Inclusive Design Challenge. So one of the questions that we ask ourselves as educators is, how might we make these really complex topics like climate change and engineering relevant and meaningful to youth? Instead of overwhelming them with what might be an impossible problem to address, we also want to make them feel empowered to actually take action as well. And so we start by looking at what climate change means to them in terms of their own experiences and the impacts on their own community. So then that last image, if you notice, anybody from the Greater Toronto area might notice that that's a GO train that's submerged. That was taken during the 2013 floods in Toronto. The next image here is another photo that students can relate to around snowstorms, ice storms, where they might have experienced this kind of scene that we have in the photograph here. So we asked them, how have you or your family members or people in your community been impacted by a severe weather event like this, right? And they might talk about buses being canceled and not being able to get to school, for example. They might recognize that older adults, their grandparents, or people with mobility issues are going to have more challenges getting around in this kind of situation. And so through these kinds of discussions, they may also gain awareness that climate change actually disproportionately affects those who suffer from inequalities. So people who, older adults, people who don't have access to their own vehicles, for example. And so again, gaining awareness of not just how they are impacted, but other people as well. We also encourage them to share by empathizing with them and validating their own experiences. So using a slide like this, we might talk about how smog or smoke from the wildfires that we experienced last summer meant we couldn't go outside to play, right? We couldn't go play soccer, for example. No air conditioning in classrooms during a heat wave means we're uncomfortable, we feel tired and unmotivated, we don't want to be paying attention to our teachers, right? They gain empathy as well when their classmates and teachers share stories, either their own stories or stories about other people that they know who are affected by these events. And so then we can take these real experiences, their own experiences, and add them to tools like empathy mind maps to identify specific needs and insights related to these kinds of experiences. And so we define a design challenge based on those needs and insights. And for this evening's design challenge, we've done that for you. We've kind of skipped through the empathy piece just because we don't have a lot of time to go through the entire workshop. And so we've defined our design challenge for you as follows. So our school or work community needs to mitigate or reverse the impact of greenhouse gas emissions, not only to save the planet, but also to boost our own health and well-being. And so more specifically, we might ask, how might we adapt our existing school or work environment to promote sustainability, reverse greenhouse gas emissions, and improve students' or employees' physical and mental health? And so at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Lauren, and she's going to take us through the next phases of the design thinking process. And we're going to get you all to contribute to our design ideas.
Thank you, Andrea. So I've just posted in the chat a link to a set of slides that we'll all be able to participate and edit as we go. It's kind of a group brainstorming location. So if you guys want to see if you're able to access that link, let me know if you're able to go ahead and try typing something just to make sure that you're actually able to edit it. Hopefully everyone should be able to do that. So looks like I see some cute little animals showing up at the top of the screen. So that's a good sign. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can all see. Perfect. Let me know. Are you able to see my screen, Andrea? Okay, perfect. So with the how we typically do these brainstorming sessions is we'll either do groups or groups of students, or if it's a smaller group, we'll do it as a group like we're going to do today. So the idea is brainstorming ideas related to the question that Andrea spoke about, the how might we adapt our existing school work environment to promote sustainability, etc. And the idea with this is we want quantity of ideas. The idea is nothing is too crazy. It's if you're familiar with improv, it's the concept of yes and build off each other's ideas. Anything that comes to you as a thought of how might we address this question here, feel free to add your thoughts and ideas to the slide deck, as well as if you're more comfortable, you can add them in the Zoom chat, as well as feel free to unmute yourselves. And we'd love to get a discussion going as well. So if you guys want to go ahead and start adding things or discussing, if you guys have any ideas right off the bat.
Yeah, so at this point, we really encourage you to unmute yourselves and just add to the discussion, and I'll try to take notes as well.
And we do have an additional slide if we fill up this first slide here. So, let's see. Andrea, do you have anything that comes to mind? We'll start the flow of
I
ideas.
have ideas based on our last workshop, but I feel like that's cheating. So
It might just be mine. I'm having difficulty accessing being able to edit personally.
Okay, let me try sharing the link again. I see some people are able to edit.
This could be user error too.
or maybe
Andrea, do you want to try again?
I'm just going to make sure.
Make sure
Lauren,
they have
I think
editing
you have
access.
to,
So, yeah, it should
open up
be set
the
so that
attachment that
anybody
you sent, correct?
edit.
Sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty. I'll share a screen again. If you click on the link that's in the chat, it should open a document where you're able to add there. If you're not able to add there for whatever reason, you can feel free in the same place where the link is, you can type out a thought there and we can copy it over into the slides.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the same one that you've got there. So it should work, hopefully.
Let us know if that worked. And again, if that's
Yeah.
not able to add slide or add text there, feel free to type it in the chat where the link is and we'll copy it over. Or if you feel free to share it as well.
All right.
I see we got ideas around getting to work or school.
Yeah. So walking, biking, carpooling instead of driving. So vendors who prioritize or utilize environmental sustainability. Okay. So with vendors, can I ask the anonymous draft to explain what kind of vendors have you got in mind?
Hi, that was me. Who use some sort of monitoring on how much greenhouse gases they use, or use sustainable raw materials, but have some sort of way of measuring and being accountable for how they use resources.
And so these would be like partners who are working with the school or with a place of employment. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Great, thank you. Okay, what else have we got? What else might you like to see in the classroom or somewhere else in the school? Or, you know, I can't imagine, I don't know exactly what your workplace might look like, but in your office or one of the places where you spend a lot of time, how might you actually change the space?
I see we have a hand raised. Anastasia, feel free to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe it's not about this space, but it's about overall waste management, and like integration of like visible elements, why it is important, what is the cycle that our waste is going through, and how we can encourage kids, youth, students, like pupils to sort consciously, because of course we have the whole system, but when we do it more like deliberate and conscious, when we explain what is the whole life cycle of the products, we also, I think, empower and switch attention from the linear approach to more like circular economy. So my comment is on waste management.
Okay. I think that's a great idea. So raising awareness about what that actually looks like. What would that look like to people in the workplace or to students in a school? How could we actually make them aware and make that visible to them?
I'm gonna comment on this.
Yeah.
I'm working in a waste management company, so where we all like recycle and the bakery stuff, everything comes. So I think it's the most important for the kids. Like we should arrange tours for them, like where our garbage go or wherever like all the recyclables go, how they are like sorting it, and how we like fill the landfills and everything. So they are like more aware, like so that they can reuse like a lot of stuff. We can reuse it, but instead of reusing, we just like throw it in the garbage or like in the landfills. So I think it's important, more important than recycling. It's important, but reuse is more important than recycling.
Okay.
So I think that's what I'm gonna. Thank you.
So in terms of actually sharing that with people, is that like a poster on the wall, or would that be a speaker who comes in to do a presentation about that, or what are some of the ways to actually raise awareness around?
I think our
reusing?
companies already take an initiatives, like they ask their all workers bring their kids on a day, like it's called the kids on a work for
Yeah.
one day. So they ask their like every employee so they can bring their child on the work so they can see it. I think that's the way you can do like more awareness.
Okay, great.
And maybe also, like some things when actually kids are on the mission of like cleaning like some sort of stuff and sorting them, like in the ocean areas you have this like beach cleaning activism. So something similar, but in the framework of city life, because or maybe in park zones or anything. So children experience that it's not a linear process, and you have to be responsible in it.
So
maybe also something connected to composting. I'm not sure how exactly, but I think it's something potential. We don't. It's very visual when we explain how the apple is composted in nature and how it is rotten, like in the garbage, something like that.
That also talking about the idea of waste management and the cycle, kind of what happens after a product is no longer used. It also makes me think of the idea of what happens before we get something. So specifically, I was thinking like food, potentially in like, say, a more urban area. Students may not have the connection of like where that food is coming from, what it looks like to get from there to their school cafeteria or to their lunchbox. So again, kind of on the idea of finding a way to have that experience of understanding that process could be interesting too.
I feel like there could be like a mini model in the cafeteria that kind of takes the apple from the tree, puts it on the truck, you've got like a Lego model that takes it down the tracks to the, you know, the sorting facility, I don't know, and grocery store, and then, you know, where it goes from there. And then the same thing on the waste, the other side of the cafeteria, maybe.
Andrew, I'm no longer able to see the chat for some reason. I think it's because I'm sharing my screen. So if you just want to do a quick chat, I did copy or check. I did copy over one idea, but just make sure we don't have any others that were missed.
Yeah, and feel free to go to the next slide as well. We've got 2 slides.
Oh yeah, we do have an extra slide. So if we're getting tight for space on this one, feel free to start adding to the next slide as well. And we'll do like maybe 2 more minutes of brainstorming as many ideas as we can.
Yeah.
If anyone sees an idea
Appreciate
that's
this.
already listed that they find really interesting or that they have a question about, please feel free to ask.
So the idea in the chat, having more plants in school classrooms or any location, air quality and mental health. So that relates to the workshop that we did on living walls. So the teachers wanted to build a living wall in their school, and they got students involved in that, which was great. Was that one?
I copied it over already.
You did copy it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot here.
And even with the idea of having, Andrew, I think you covered this in the workshop you did as well with the living wall, the idea of when you have more plants as well, that can lead to understanding what plants need to be able to grow and thrive. And from like it can also be a teaching tool as well.
Yeah. Anastasia.
I also wanted to add, it's not, again, maybe it's not preliminary about spaces, but it's more of the revision of the school program when we can integrate, for instance, such scientific instruments like biomimicry, you know, like provoking some inspiration from nature and wisdom of nature, and then integrate it somehow into the design of the classrooms, something not conventional, you know, like something that really appeals to the abstract thinking and maybe even on artistic side. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is something that came up to my mind.
That sounds really interesting. How would you envision that?
So
Like,
I think that a whole bunch of things that should be done, first of all, is like introducing the course on biomimicry itself, so kids can actually learn what it is to explore, why you have to explore nature, why you have to explore its wisdoms, its qualities, its traits, its, you know, like its cycles, everything. But then also somehow integrate this type of, you know, like nature prototypes into the classroom, like a visual element. So so, you know, like a
like
bit of
made of burrs or something like that.
exactly yeah.
Okay. I think somebody managed to copy the comment. I was having trouble.
I got it. I found it now.
You got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I think we should probably move on to the storyboarding so we don't run out of time. So
Yeah, so while people are finishing typing their last thoughts, and I'm glad we were able to fill up 2 slides, that's awesome. Generally what happens now is if we've broken into different groups with the students, we'll come back and they'll kind of discuss some of the ideas that they've come up with, or if we're working as a group like we are today, kind of just having based on some of the discussion that we've had, or we'll do a follow-up to be, is there a specific idea that kind of came out of this that we really want to kind of take further in the stuff, and from brainstorming to what would that actually look like? And we do that generally through prototyping, where we'll do a storyboard kind of process of, this is what it looks like before, this is how this comes to be, and this is what happens kind of once we've been able to implement whatever our idea was. Or we'll also work with students actually with physical prototyping materials. So in papers, pom-poms, styrofoam, pipe cleaners, the idea where it's a low fidelity prototype, where the purpose of the prototype is kind of where once you have a physical form representation that you can then take back to the people that you spoke with at the beginning to kind of help explain, this is kind of based on what you told me, this is kind of what I've come up with, this is how you could interact with it, and then get feedback on that. So for us, we're going to do the storyboarding process because we weren't able to send you all construction paper. With that, is there an idea in the chat or in the slides, either on slide 1 or slide 2, that really stood out to anyone, either Andrea or I guess if you guys, I think we can see most of your mouse or your little icons. So if you guys are able to either say out loud or put your icon, your little indicators on a comment that really stands out to you, we can move forward with that one. Andrea, let me know if you see. We'll give people a minute to read through some of the different ones.
Yeah. Or highlight one of the ones that you like.
Was there any that stood out to you, Andrea?
Yeah, I think there are lots of good ones. I'm also kind of going through what some of the different ones are. Yeah, great. Okay. So a lot around reducing emissions, reusing. So the one that was highlighted on the bottom of the first slide deck. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm not on mute, right?
Yeah.
Clothing, toys, small houseware, swap. So a swap meet at school or community center to promote reuse. I think that's a great idea. I have kids who get far too many toys. And so I do try and give those away to other friends, kids when we can. And I think the idea of swapping some of those things that we don't often use to the point where they need to be thrown away makes a lot of sense. There were a couple other ones highlighted. So many low-income families rely heavily on snack foods that include lots of packaging. Accessibility to fresh fruits and veggies may be limited. How to make these more available? So are there any thoughts on how to actually make fruits and veggies more available?
It seems almost potentially. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, with that one, like I think it's more about like the things we have to deliver, because in the big supermarkets, well, a lot of stuff is come in bulk, so that's why like a lot of stuff is wastage too. Like especially in our waste management, we get like a lot of fruits, vegetables, which is like degraded with the time. So it is like just about the like we can't like use that much quantity in the right time. So that's why I think it's the problem that we don't have a distribution in the right way. So I think
That makes me think like some kind of partnership between some of these, if there could be kind of closer partnerships with schools or say like a community or group set up at a school that could work with some of those, maybe I think you were saying
yeah, that's the
even
best
companies or
yeah,
stores.
yeah, that's
So that issue was also actually addressed in one of our workshops by some of our participants, and they came up with an idea to create some sort of technology that could take food that is overripe or to the point of rotting and extract the nutrients that are still useful out of those fruits and vegetables, and then use them in some other way, like put them in a smoothie or something like that. And then, with the rest of the food waste, dispose of it in some other way. So that's an example of like, the kinds of ideas that kids come up with, which I thought was a great idea.
Do we want to kind of run with that idea, Andrea? It seems like, and just from a time constraint perspective, the idea of So on this one, if you guys move to slide 4 and 5, which I'm sharing on my screen, again, in these boxes, we can either add text or we can add images. So ultimately kind of explaining what the current scenario is. This second box is the idea to kind of show the new solution or the idea of the solution being implemented, what that could look like, and then what happens, what's the positive outcome that comes after that. So I think if we're moving forward kind of with the idea of providing accessible, providing schools and students with accessible access to fresh fruits and vegetables, potentially by collaborating maybe with stores and things like that to be able to have access to produce that would otherwise have been thrown away. So if you guys want to go ahead and add images or text as well to the slides, kind of explaining, kind of as a way to, again, visualize if you were going to go back and talk to the person who explained that they were having issues getting access to fresh fruits and vegetables, what kind of that could look like.
I'm going to add one in.
And if anyone has anything else to add to the chat too regarding kind of what that could look like, feel free to add it there as well.
This computer is not
Cooperating.
cooperating as fast as the last time we did this online.
Lauren, are we to type in the box then? Is that correct?
You guys can go ahead and type in the box if you guys want to like open a new window and go to Google Images to copy an image and paste it in the screen. Either one of those work.
Maybe I'll just
Andrew.
mention this and someone, if you can add or whatever,
Sure.
Lauren. I just know when during junior high, when I was in Vancouver, a school down in Vancouver, we actually had a cooler vending machine that actually had chilled apples in it that you could buy. So I think a similar thing of just fruit and vegetables in small quantities in a, just like you would go through the chips and chocolate bars now and they drop out after you put your money in, something like that, but just having with fresh fruit and vegetables in small quantities. Like an ice cooler, it has to be something that has to keep it chilled.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
I think probably more at a high school, junior high level than maybe at an elementary level.
I'm just dropping a couple of images to kind of represent snack food with lots of packaging and the waste that's involved. And so what was the idea that we wanted to focus on in terms of actually accessing that fresh produce?
Mine's also not letting me add in the chat, but I just wanted to say as well, another option I've seen like online, there's websites and whatnot called like Imperfect Foods, where you can buy in bulk produce that isn't perfect for stores. And so maybe either doing like a partnership with them or finding ways to kind of intervene as being like kind of a recipient of those as well. And then either possibly putting them into what the last individual said in like a cooler, or I know even just being in schools here, teachers or the front desk often have bins of snacks and everything available for students, so they can go down to the office or in their classroom to have extra snacks if possible. And I do know that lots of times they do have apples and then lots of packaged snacks as well, but having maybe more availability of those stored in the fridges at the office and then having them sent down to classes as options as well.
And it sounded like one of the ways we were thinking that that could possibly happen was some of the partnerships possibly with, say, stores that before their produce goes bad, if they were able to provide that to a school and then store it in some of the different options that have kind of been stated here.
one of the other ideas that the teachers talked about a little bit in the previous workshop that we did was whether they might actually be able to grow foods on the living wall that they were going to construct, or in one of the flower beds that they had out in the schoolyard. So like creating some sort of small community garden.
No, we're getting a little pressed for time, so I think we can move on to the next stage. But another kind of how this can get bigger as well is or another thing to think about if you're taking this a step further is also the idea of, okay, say we were partnering with local, or if the school was partnering with a local grocery store, how do we get the produce from, say, the produce from the store to the school in a way that is considering greenhouse gases? Is there a more environmentally friendly way to be able to kind of handle that transport? That could be a whole other piece for students to kind of consider, or for participants to think about. So with this prototyping stage, Andrea, are you good if I move on?
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys look either on your own at slide 7, and I apologize, people are having difficulty accessing the slides. But we appreciate you guys speaking up and adding to the chat. But we have what we call our STEM flower, which is ultimately a way for our program participants to connect some of the positive social change that they're able to achieve by this idea that they came up with. These are the petals of the flower, and how that is supported by the roots and the stem components that are necessary to make their idea happen. So in this case, for this slide, if people are able to add, or again, add to the chat or say out loud, up in these boxes around the top, we want to add what are some of the positive social outcomes of this design process or of this idea we just came up with, as well as what are some of the STEM, so science, engineering, technology, and math components that are necessary to make this idea, and therefore these positive outcomes possible.
Great. We have people adding already.
You're able to still see my screen, correct? I realize it stopped when I had technical issues, but are people able to see my screen? Okay.
We kind of have to jump back and forth from one screen to the other for some of us.
Yeah, me too.
I ended up having to switch to monitors. So I can read out some of the ideas that we had if it's easier for people if they're not able to see, but from some of the STEM components that we have stuff already related to vending machines and mechanics or gears. I'm assuming kind of related to the process of what would be needed in a vending machine. We also have components of biology. Some of the positive social outcomes that people are mentioning are better nutrition, connecting with the community. I see we've got more in the chat. Add
Inclusivity.
more boxes.
So yeah, in the chat.
Let me know if I have this in the right spot.
More students have access to fruits and vegetables, better nutrition, better physical and mental health, connecting schools to grocery stores. So online, is that connecting, the idea to connect them online?
Yeah, it's like maybe develop an app or something so that they can like put their like produce on it, so that like they can say, oh yeah, we have this much quantity and which schools like they need, so they can like make a good communication with each other.
And so with that, I think getting back to that concept of less waste produced, right? If we haven't got that already, I can put that in here. So from an environmental perspective, And I think with that, we could also, I think we've got everything filled up here, which is great. I was also thinking about the chemistry and emissions. So looking at that from chemical engineering or chemistry perspective, transportation emissions. So yeah, this is awesome. We've got our stem flowers complete. Sure, we can
Andrew,
add.
if you want to go to the next step.
Oh, that's me, right? Okay, so I'll go back to sharing my slides here. Hang on. Oh, I have to do this differently. Sorry. Hang on. There we go.
Well, just while Andrew is pulling that up, one thing is, like I said, generally we run this workshop more as a half day as kind of our smaller end of things. So we have a little bit more time to dive into these different steps, but we wanted to give you all a little kind of taste of some of the activities we go through on a slightly more condensed time frame.
So can everybody see my screen again now?
Not yet. I can't.
No? Oh.
I can, as a member.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I was like, it says it's sharing, but yeah, you never know with
I
technology.
got it.
Good. So yeah, we just wanted to share an example of what this looks like in a workshop. So this is from a workshop we did in November on that living wall project, right? And so some of the social outcomes that the student identified were calms. So it's a calming effect on students just having that living wall there. It encourages collaboration, right? So students are collaborating with teachers, with other members of the school community, and everybody who's involved in constructing it and maintaining it. And there's the educational aspect, so they're learning from it. And then the STEM components, they mentioned civil engineering, solar power, water and soil chemistry. And those are just, 3 out of the 5 on this worksheet, and lots of other ideas that came from other students as well. So really, we just wanted to go back to the impact that we're having, and we do ask people to complete a survey after participating in the workshop, both students and teachers. And through those surveys, we have been able to see that participants do make connections between the STEM aspects and skills like creativity, collaboration, and creating positive social environmental impact. And we're able to make engineering more equitable and inclusive by showing youth or participants the benefits of their diverse knowledge, skills, and experiences in the design process. So some examples of participant feedback, and maybe I'll just read one because we're getting close to the end of our hour together. So the one in the center, I know I'm an individual with a lot of ideas. However, I feel like I have no outlet for my thoughts regarding these matters. But here it felt really good to be encouraged to think and communicate and exchange ideas. So some really great feedback from some of our participants. So our call to action for you is for you to think about what you will do to make engineering more inclusive, relevant, and motivating. And we would love to hear from you, what that might be and what part of this workshop helped inspire that action. So if anybody has anything to share, we would love to hear from you, or again, put it in the chat to share with everybody.
I think it's one idea is like to promote more non-profit ideas, like to make more non-profit organizations, so that you always think like to make a better environment instead of make more profit. So I think it is good to focus on non-profit ideas. Yeah.
It would be great. I know there are a lot of industry partnerships in engineering schools. Could we have more partnerships with nonprofit organizations? I think that would be really neat to see more of that. Was there anything in this workshop that inspired that for you? No pressure.
In this webinar, like we can get an idea like how we can like start from scratch and how we can like introduce an idea to make it a reality. So everything is go step by step. So I think it's a way to do. So I think that we can get, like we can manage, or maybe we can have an idea so we can make it into reality.
Great. So like starting from the beginning of the process and then getting to the point where we're actually creating some sort of prototype, even if it's a low fidelity prototype, to actually make it feel real. Is that, have I sort of summarized what you were sharing?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
great. Thank you. Anything else before we sort of move on to wrap up our workshop?
I think just how you're so open and having everybody be able to share their ideas and kind of add, it's kind of that inclusive lens where it's like no idea is too silly or out there. Like even you were saying you could reach even further with the emissions or the CO2, like there really is no limit. So every idea can somehow be connected to and somehow have a positive impact on it. So I think that's a really interesting thing, that it's not guarded. There's no limitations on what students can throw out there. And then you kind of narrow down the inquiry-based project as you go and kind of tailor it.
Yeah, I think that is really great when we can get participants to get past that, oh, it's not feasible for whatever reason. And I see the same thing, whether we're working with 12-year-olds or, you know, students in my class in their 20s or whatever age, that they're often sort of stuck on, well, that couldn't work. But once they get past that, it gets a lot of fun and really creative. And I think that's where a lot of the innovative ideas come from. So yeah, thanks.
I also think the group session, you know, everyone, I think, even in this participation, had a bit of a block until someone throws out one idea, and then it kind of gets you thinking in different ways. So I think it's a great idea. Great,
thank you. Yeah, so we've also got a quick survey for you. So if you can share your feedback, that would be fantastic on our survey as well. You can go to slido.com. I'm going to make sure I've got this started. Type in the event code Up4, and then yeah, that should get you to this question. What is the most valuable thing that you learned from the workshop? So there we go. And I can share the answers on the slide as well.
We're still seeing your screen, Andrea, so.
Oh, great. Okay. Is that, can you see the poll at this point? Okay, well, maybe I'll just leave it there. I think it's all anonymous anyway, if you, you can see the answers coming in. Yeah. We'll give you a minute to write any answers, or you can continue on after the workshop.
Just for the sake of time, Andrea, did you want to run through our kind of overall thanks at the end while people are able to
Sure, let's
add
do
their?
Okay, I'm not going to go back into the presentation mode because I think you can see.
We are still seeing your screen right now. Okay, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we've got the thank you. So yeah, everybody, really appreciate everybody's participation in joining us, contributing to the workshop. We hope you enjoyed the session with us. We definitely want to thank the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers for organizing National Engineering Month. We've been part of this event for the last few years now, which is a really great initiative. And of course, all of the NEM partners. So they are listed on numerous slides here. And I think it's amazing that there's so many partners who are contributing to this event and the Engineering Month, National Engineering Month, all of the events in this. So here are quite a few for you to look through in the slides. Yeah, so again, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for contributing to our Slido poll at the end. And we hope to see you at some of the other events this month.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.